Oh, hey guys. Good morning. What time is it? It's like 6:34. Yeah, I was up early this morning. I think I was up by 5 o'clock this morning. Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's rough. My life is not easy, I'll tell you that. Even though during the summer I spend a lot of time sitting around. That's what makes it so difficult. I mean, it's so fucking hot. There's nothing to do. And even if there was something to do, it's too fucking hot to do it. And, there's no work out here during the summer. Because it's too fucking hot. Nobody's working out here during the summer. Because you'd be a madman to be out here working, laboring in the summer heat in this part of the desert. I mean, it's weird. It's almost like you know how like bears hibernate? That's what it's like out here. Only here it's humans that have to hibernate during the summer because it's too fucking hot. Instead of bears, hibernating in caves during the winter. It's like that, only an inversion. It's people having to hibernate during the summer because it's like fucking averages 115 degrees for like 2 fucking months straight. And so nobody's doing anything. There is no work because everybody's hibernating. Like bears do. And it's not easy. This is why I set up my trailer the way I did. And people that don't live in these types of environments, they don't really understand, you know what I mean? Unless somebody explains it. Like before I came out here, I didn't know that this is the way shit works out in the desert, I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't until I came out here and then I started, growing accustomed to the way things work, and then it's like, you stay inside, you hibernate during the summer. There's no reason to be outside, like hardly at all, unless somebody's gonna pay me like $30 an hour to be out laboring, risking my life, laboring in the 115 degrees, or 20 to 120 degrees. Ain't gonna do it, And another thing, like in these areas, like the desert, see, a lot of poor people come out to the desert to live because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to live out in the desert because nobody lives out here, I don't know, it's fucking weird, man. Like the movie Dune, that movie Dune. I need one of those fucking suits that they wear in the movie Dune, where I'm fucking like breathing the spice. That's what this is. This is my spice. But anyway, so I was listening to some discussion on witches, like the witch trials. And the witch trials has been kind of an interesting kind of thing for me. Because I think witches are real. I don't think witches being real is as big of a deal as people... Like, the reality of witches... I mean... When talking about the possibility of the reality of witches... The scary thing about witches being real isn't like that they can cast spells and shit like this. Like that's like really like whatever. how do I explain this? Like, casting spells is weak. Because, okay, let me put it to you this way. In your life, okay, I'm 51 years old. Just reviewing your life, okay? Have you seen, like, bizarre shit, like extremely bizarre shit in your life? I mean, I guess everybody's different. But like if somebody asked me that, I would be like, yeah. You know, like the idea that truth is stranger than fiction. Dude, like the reality is insane, bro. Reality is totally insane, okay? And so if you're looking at reality and how insane it is, well, if reality is totally insane, and then let's say some witch casts a spell, and it like the witch shoots this like fireball, you know, or an illusion of a fireball, and it just like shoots across you. Would you really be like, oh my God, would you really be shocked? No, you wouldn't. Okay? It's like, I've seen UFOs. So what, you know? You know, in the moment, it's like, whoa, dude, I'm actually seeing a UFO. Like, it's crazy, but it's just like, whatever. There's an unidentified flying object, right? And you know, what are you going to do? I mean, it's just there. What, you know? So what? Really, ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, so what? I've seen UFOs. Yeah. And it's like, in the moment, it's kind of a big deal where you're like, what the fuck? You know, but, okay, so like the first time I saw an unidentified flying object, and it was this massive thing, light show going on in the sky, like this totally unexplained, and me and two other people stood there and watched it for like 10 minutes. And we're like, what the fuck? And I was like, dude, what the fuck? I was like totally tripping out, right? Okay. But then I've seen them since. And every time you see them, it's just kind of like, it's a little less, it's not as OMG, you know? It's just kind of like, there's another fucking UFO. Can you believe this shit? There's a fucking UFO, you know? And then after seeing a few of them, it's like, man, there's another fucking UFO, you know? But, you know, again, going back to reality is so bizarre. You look at all this bizarre shit taking place in reality. And then if you were to encounter a witch, and a witch could just go like this, and like this crazy looking fireball thing would form, let's say for like 5 seconds, like a real witch, and you didn't know witches were real, and this fucking weirdo woman was like, you know, like you know, coming up to you, and then she just went like this, and then this little fireball thing appeared for like 5 seconds, and then just disappeared, and she's looking at you, and she's got a wart on her nose, and she's like, and then she just like walks off. Would you really be that surprised? I mean, in the moment, you might be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the fuck, right? And then later on down the line, you know, even like a day later, you might be telling people, bro, dude, you should, oh my God, dude, the shit that I saw yesterday, you will not even believe it. Well, guess what? They're not going to believe you anyways, even if you did see it. And then that kind of takes the wind out of, that kind of takes it out of it too. Because, like, who cares? Nobody's going to believe you anyways. And you could be, like, telling people, and everybody's just like, really? Oh, you saw this, huh? That's crazy, dude. Well, hey, man, I got to go, bro. We'll see you later. Like, nobody's going to give a fuck if you encountered a witch, and she's like, and, you know, and she's got a wart on her nose, and she's like, and she walks up to you and she's like, yeah, and a fucking little fireball forms for like 5 seconds or something, and then it just disappears, and then she's like, yeah. And then she just fucking walks off, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck was that shit? You know, like if you saw that, you know, and then you go try to tell anybody, nobody's going to believe you. It doesn't matter that you saw it. And because it doesn't matter to anyone else, it starts to not really matter to you, where you're just like, well, yeah, of course I saw this weird thing, and of course nobody believes me. Of course. Because reality is totally insane. Can't you see that reality is totally fucking insane? Look at all the news headlines. Oh, Trump and the catch-up ear, and another false flag war that isn't happening, and here's a bunch of pictures of fake babies' body parts flying everywhere. You know, just whatever. Like reality is totally insane. So would you really be, in the grand scheme, would you really be all that surprised if some witch was just like, you know, wart on her nose, long stringy hair, and tattered clothes, and she's walking along and she sees you and she's and she walks up to you and she's like, and a fucking little fireball appears for like 5 seconds and then it disappears and she's like, and then she just walks off. And it was only you that saw it, and you're just like, what the fuck is this shit? You know? But really, in the grand scheme of things, of all this bizarre shit you see all the time, all your life, I mean, wouldn't that just be one more bizarre thing to add to this fucking, your X-Files? Add another weirdo fucking thing to add to the X-Files, right? But, and like I said, you try to tell anybody, doesn't matter who it is, they're not going to believe you, dude. They're going to be like, yeah, right. You know, which makes it also, that becomes more bizarre than the witnessing what you saw itself, is that nobody believes you. That becomes like totally bizarre. And then you're just like, oh my God, am I losing my fucking mind? You know, but really, in the grand scheme of things, would you really be all that surprised? I mean, looking back, you'd just be like, yeah, that's just one more weird fucking bizarre thing in the add it to the X-Files, you know. It really wouldn't. And you may only see that once in your life, you know, and that'll be it. But if you saw something like that, anything kind of resembling that type of experience, you would think it would change your perspective on stuff, you know. One thing that it would change your perspective on is the official story on the witch trials. So I was listening to somebody talking about the witch trials, you know, and the person was talking about the official story. And the official story about the witch trials is that, well, there wasn't any real witches. You know, it was all just a big misunderstanding, and, you know, and there were no witches, you know. And it's like, dude, so there were no witches during the witch trials. Let's just play this tape out and flesh this idea out. That there were no real witches, and it was all just like some crazed, you know, panic of its time, just a bunch of hysterical panic of its time. You know? There really was no witches. Okay. Well, now let's think about the idea of a malignant narcissist, a female malignant narcissist. Now, if you've ever had a close encounter with a real narcissist, especially a female narcissist, like a true life, real, you know, female malignant narcissist. A malignant narcissist, a female malignant narcissist, is scarier than, you know, like the witch that comes up. You know, the witch has nothing on a female malignant narcissist. Has absolutely nothing. You know, Like, you could say you saw that, and the lady comes up, and she's like, man, she fucking do a little fireball thing, and then she just walks off, and you're like, whoa, like, what the fuck, right? See, something like that would pale in comparison to you having a real close encounter with a real female malignant narcissist. Like, a female malignant narcissist is way more traumatic of an experience to encounter than just some witch something like that to actually happen. Like, it's way more crazy, you know? So, did female malignant narcissists exist back during the witch trials, the Salem witch trials? Would there actually be female malignant narcissists that deserve to be drowned and deserve to be burnt alive and shit? I'd say, yeah, probably. They exist today. Well, I mean, now, do they deserve to be burnt alive or what? I don't, I can't be judge, jury, and executioner. Don't put that on me. But does a female malignant narcissist deserve to be like, let's say you have a serial killer, a female malignant narcissist who's a serial killer. Does she deserve to be locked up? Oh, fucking A, yeah. Yeah. And then death penalty, well, depends on what are your thoughts on the death penalty, And see, the thing about malignant narcissism that they're only just starting to scratch the surface on is that, dude, it's as big of a phenomena with females as it is male. But see, all of this, there's all of this assumption that, like, oh, men, 90% of all malignant narcissists are men. It's always been like men are the evil people, and women are just the innocent. And they're only just, like, in the field of psychology and stuff, they're only just starting to scratch the surface that there are women, and it's a lot more difficult to detect malignant narcissists in females. Do you know why? Because females have a more innocent appearance. And females are much more effective at manipulating others with their puppy eyes and their, the sad look. When you see a sad look on a man, you're like, oh, dude, get away. I don't want to be around this shit. This guy's just going to bring me down. But when you see a sad look on an attractive female, who's sexy, she's got some perky tits, and she's got a nice ass, and she's got a cute, innocent face, and she's sad. Oh, you're drawn to that. You're like, oh my gosh, I need to help this poor girl. This poor girl, she's just going through something. How can I console you, young lady? Are you okay, young lady? Whereas if you see the guy, you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to deal with this drama. I got enough of my own problem, right? See, it's a lot more difficult to detect malignant narcissism in women. And a lot of the reason is because men think with their dick. And so they're only just starting to scratch the surface on malignant narcissism in women. And psychopathy in women. Because it's always the men. The men are the evil, But anyway, so back to witches and the witch trial. Now, were there malignant narcissistic women? Like total psychopath women who hid behind their cute little face with their puppy eyes and their sad look. All they got to do is droop their lip a little bit to get attention, and everybody's like, hey, are you okay? Are you all right? What can I do to help you, young lady? You're such a beautiful gal. There's no reason you should be sad. What can I do for you? Do you want to come home with me? I'll take care of you. were there malignant, narcissistic, psychopath women back during the Salem Witch Trials? Like women who actually deserved to be punished for their egregious, violent acts, criminal acts? Of course. I love it how the whole Salem witch trial thing, the whole story is oh yeah, it was all just, all it really was just a bunch of men picking on women. That's what it was. It couldn't have been that women played some part in this at all. No, because women are just innocent, and these men, they're, the patriarchy, they were coming in and, doing all this bad stuff to these women, these poor women from the witch trials, No, there are real witches, dude. Real witches that believe themselves to be witches, that desire to participate in acts of evil in order to gain power through the supernatural existence of Satan. Oh, fuck, you don't think these people exist. And so, of course, you're going to have to admit, well, yeah, of course there are women who are like dabbling in Satanism and shit to try to gain power and stuff. Well, then you got to start thinking about, well, how real is Satanism and shit? Like if someone were to really devote their life to Satan, could that conjure up supernatural, things? Is exorcism real? Is demon possession real? Well, we know evil is real because we see evil a lot. Whether we want to admit it or not, we see evil in the world. So there's no real denying the existence of evil. So is demon possession real? I guess it would depend on who you ask. Wasn't the movie The Exorcist supposedly based on a true story? What about I have a book written by Malachi Martin, who's like one of the most renowned exorcists of all time, and supposedly he's encountered many demon-possessed people and had to, perform exorcisms on demon-possessed people. So is that real or is it not? I mean, you can say it's not real, but you've still got this phenomena of, so-called exorcists who are claiming that their demon possession is real. And if demon possession is real, could it be possible that sometime in your life, you'll just be by yourself, nobody around, and here comes this person just like waddling, and you're just like out in some secluded area where there isn't, and here comes this person, they're like coming out through the trees, and they've got a handful of berries that they picked or something, and they're walking up, and they've got like this tattered cloak, stringy hair, a wart on their nose, and like kind of an ugly lady, and she looks angry, and she's like waddling up, and she's waddling towards you, and you're looking at it like, what's this? Like, what's going on here? This is interesting, right? And then she sees you, and she starts kind of waddling kind of more in your direction a little bit, and then maybe she gets about 20 or 30 feet from you, and she stops, and she looks at the berries in her hand, and then she looks at you, and then she goes, and then it fucking turns into a little fireball for like 5 seconds, and then poof, and then she's like, and then she just keeps waddling on. Could that happen in real life? Fuck, dude. Again, would you be surprised? I mean, first of all, truth is stranger than fiction. You have to have already seen shit that bizarre in your life by now, if you're my age. And if you haven't seen the bizarre like that, in some form or other, something as bizarre as that in your life, if you haven't seen something as bizarre as that in your life, then I would argue that you're not living. You are not living. You are like an automaton who is just like a robot that's just going, pulling the lever and pushing the button, and you're not paying attention to what's happening around you. If you haven't seen something as equally bizarre as that in your life, and you're my age, then I would argue you're not living life, dude. You are not living life. The bizarre is all around us. And it takes many different forms. It may not be the fucking witch, but something. There's something as equally bizarre that you have encountered in your life if you're my age. At least one thing. And if not, you're not living life. You're not. So going back to the witch trials, was it all just a big misunderstanding, and it didn't have anything to do with that? There's actually evil witches that were fucking doing crazy shit that had something to do with stirring up all this hysteria that the Salem Witch Trials was about. No. There was some weirdo fucking women doing some weirdo fucking shit that triggered some hysteria where people started being like, dude, there's a weird bunch of women that are fucking psycho fucking malignant narcissists, evil fucking cunts, and there's a little cult of them, and they're like, I see they're cutting up pigs and shit and drinking their blood. Like, they're doing weird shit over there, dude. There's something weird. And that's what triggered a lot of the Salem Witch Trials. Is that there's a phenomena of groups of evil women, malignant narcissist women. And narcissists, birds of a feather flock together. Witches, for lack of a better term, they always congregate and conspire and, and they hate men, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on and on, all this, Yeah. I would argue, this is true. It's true today. And in the field of psychology, they're only just barely scratching the surface on the phenomena of women who are malignant, narcissist psychopaths, okay?